Okay, so it looks like we're live. So we're joined today with Buck or BlockchainBuck. Yep. And we're joined with Exodus as usual. Now, people in the chat, if you could just give us a quick comment just to let me know that everything's working, that you can hear us, that the picture sounds okay, that'd be fantastic. So the mission with today's show is to talk about some exciting behind the scenes stuff that I'm not massively familiar with, so it's going to be really nice for me to kind of get to know this stuff. So we're looking at TinyWallet 2, Decred's Lightning Network, Lightning Chat, and Decred DEX or DCRDEX, and some of the integrations, and specifically something that I'm quite interested about, but not overly, is the Web3 content as well, and how Decred might be able to push forward. Remember, a lot of this stuff is speculative at this point and still in development, but it's interesting to talk about this stuff. And it's also interesting to talk about Decred's approach to it, which, as we heard from Dave's interview, it was very much about the more that we can do off chain, the better. The less we have to carry the weight forward, the better. And I know during Dave's interview, he talked about RGB, and I know that's something that I've been doing a bit of research on. I know that Exodus has looked at a little bit as well. So fantastic, guys. Thank you so much for joining us, Buck. Really appreciate your time on this one, and Exodus. So if we can start just by saying, what's your background, Buck, and what are you currently working on?
Yeah, first, thanks for having me, Phoenix, Exodus. It's really great to have a chance to talk about this stuff. So thanks a lot for having me on. Now you were asking about my background. Well, as far as like with blockchain and cryptocurrency, I got into crypto by mining. I was a poor college student. I wanted to make a little bit of extra cash. I saw the market ramping up in 2017, and I bought a handful of GPUs and started mining. At the time, I was a student. I was a graduate student. I was studying physics, and not really liking it. really kind of just looking for a way out. Didn't really enjoy. I was working at various private and national labs, kind of doing my thesis research, and was looking for a way out. Didn't really like the whole bureaucracy of the science endeavor, and so I got into mining, and I started writing some software to kind of control my miners and maximize my profits. And then I discovered Decred, just kind of looking around for new coins to mine, and kind of read about it, saw an opportunity there, and jumped into DCR Data. Actually, is where I started with John Chapello, and jumped in, did some front end stuff over there, and I've been around ever since. That was 2018, so towards the end of the last bull run, 2017 bull run. Yeah, so I made some contributions to DCR Data. Been working on various Decred projects since then. My primary duties now are with DCRDEX, which is our decentralized exchange that we're developing. But I've also done some side projects, and one of those we're going to be talking about today is my tinydecred project, which includes something called TinyWallet. And this is kind of an experimental wallet that I work with. I've gotten some support from the stakeholders to develop it, but mostly it's kind of like my personal pet project, and making some progress, doing some cool things with it. So hopefully I'll get a chance to chat about that stuff today.
Yeah, that's absolutely amazing. I recently watched yours and was it John's interview on Decred in Depth, and I thought it was quite interesting the way you were talking about, that you do come from academia, and actual fact you kind of pulled straight away from that. And the fact that you've been around since 2017 is a really strong indicator to me that we've got a development team that was really interested, and they're digging deeper, and they're staying around for the ups and the downs, which is absolutely great. I mean, I didn't realize you were a miner, actually. So let's just get your take on the mining situation at the moment. I mean, are you still mining?
No, I'm not, partially because I took down my rig when I moved and I never put it back up. I've seen some opportunities where it's like, oh, I should put my GPUs back on, but I got other stuff to focus on right now.
Yeah, the GPU market's pretty harsh as well. Yeah. Yes, so I mean, the TinyWallet just looks absolutely amazing to me, and I just like I said before, it's not something I'm massively familiar with, but we looked at this post that you put up, and you talked about this integration with the Lightning Network.
Mm-hmm.
And from that came Lightning Chat.
Yeah.
And I wonder if you would just talk a little bit about what is Lightning Chat? How is Lightning Network going to work?
Sure.
And how can it kind of improve the situation, I suppose? What are the possibilities?
Yeah, Lightning Chat is, I mean, it's kind of what it sounds like. It's Lightning. It's private chat across the Lightning Network. Same as you would like text message on your phone, but you can do it across the Lightning Network without a need for a browser, a cellular network, or anything like that. It's wallet to wallet. So once I connect with someone, I send the messages. It goes straight to them. No one in between can read it. It's completely private. If you are using public channels to send your messages, then that part is visible. Anyone on the network can see, hey, a payment was sent, but they can never say, oh, there was a message attached to that, or they can definitely never say, here's what the message said. So private messaging is just messaging across the Lightning Network. And every message on the Lightning Network, actually, it has three parts. It has a type, it has a payload, and then it has this optional part at the end called an extension. And that's the part we kind of take advantage of to send our messages. The extension is just this really flexible little data structure at the end that you can do just about anything with, but you can't do anything critical because the Lightning protocol says specifically that the extension can be ignored. So if I'm going to do something with the extension and send it to someone, I have to make sure that the person receiving it knows how to understand what I'm sending. But that said, the extension is there, and the extension is used to do something. I don't know if you've ever heard of key send payment on Lightning Network, but it's a way of sending a payment without an invoice. The Lightning Chat uses something very similar. I send a payment without an invoice, and the recipient has the choice to ignore it. But if they're set up, they'll receive the payment, decode the message, and then be able to read it. When you send these messages, something that's kind of interesting though with the Lightning Network is you can't send zero value, which is interesting. So I actually had to send at least one atom to someone. So with the Lightning Chat, some of the technical difficulties with implementing the Lightning Chat is tracking that atom. Like if you send me 2 messages, now I've got 2 of your atoms. I have to kind of make sure that we keep that balance and check on the Lightning Network and make sure that next time I send you some, that I rebalance our channels so that we're never actually accumulating any kind of balance on each other when really we just want to send messages. Now this isn't a new idea. Lightning Chat isn't new. In fact, if you read through the Lightning docs, I think they even give an example of how to do it from the command line, to send a message with your payment from the command line. And on Bitcoin, there's some well-developed applications. One of them that I know of is called Juggernaut that focuses on exactly this, on getting private messaging on the Lightning Network. So this isn't a new idea, but it's definitely new to Decred. And I thought it was a good way to sort of just start dipping our toes with TinyWallet, with the TinyWallet project, start dipping our toes into the Lightning Network with some low risk, and just kind of start to play around, get the infrastructure set up so that we can go on from there.
Yeah. No, one thing that I was quite interested in, because it's obviously you're sending messages to messages. How does the maybe this is a little bit of my ignorance here, because nodes is obviously quite a big part of the whole system, and obviously having a full node obviously validates the whole system.
Yeah.
How does your wallet act as the node for sending and receiving? How does that kind of increase the network? Is it potentially a big impact if there's lots of them, or is it kind of mitigated in some ways? Is it just something I'm reading too much into?
I don't see a lot of detrimental impact from having a lot of smaller channels. The terminology is a little bit funny here. We use nodes somewhat loosely, but in this context, the word node means a single identity pub key on the Lightning Network. So every node on the Lightning Network is associated with a single identity pub key. Now, as it is, I believe that as the Lightning Network is set up, every wallet generally is associated with one identity pub key, but there's nothing that says that has to be like that. I could potentially set up a number of identity pub keys on a single wallet, each running their own node. The software isn't quite set up to do that. That said, it's something I want to look into a little bit, because if you can allow yourself to set up new pub keys on the same wallet. That makes things like privacy a lot easier. I can create new identities at will, and new aliases, and I can be as private as I want on the network without having to create a new wallet and without having to move funds around and stuff like that. Now that identity pub key is something that identifies your node on the network. But luckily for us, the Lightning Network actually has like a rudimentary alias system built in. So that allows us to do things like associate colors and names with nodes. So we don't always have to try to remember the first, however many digits of their identity pub key. So the Lightning Network, whoever wrote this, I don't know exactly who wrote this code, but whoever wrote this code was thinking ahead and said, it's going to be clear that we need something a little more human to associate with these nodes. Because, well, the Lightning Network is a gossip network. There's reputation associated with it, and it's good to know, who you're dealing with. So the Lightning Network has these identity pub keys. You can associate an alias with them, and that is what I would sort of call the node in the context of the conversation that we're having here. That's one node. I will be working hopefully with Matthias and DCRLD and trying to improve some of these privacy things. So I'm looking forward to being able to clarify how nodes and pub keys sort of interact when it'll need to be clarified when you can create more than one on a single wallet. So looking forward, moving towards more privacy, more sort of ephemeral aliases and identities, because we do privacy pretty well with Decred. So we try to stay focused on that kind of stuff.
While we're still on, sorry.
I was just going to ask, are there plans to implement this into Decrediton, the Lightning chat?
You'd have to ask Decrediton about that. I don't plan to go over there and add it in. They kind of do their own thing over there.
Okay.
Yeah. While we're on identities and aliases, one thing that I was kind of thinking about, and obviously if I'm completely wrong, this is just me kind of thinking, and it was I was looking at the some conversations, and I think it was Unchained podcast, and there's been a lot of chatter about soul-bound IDs. Is that in any way related to these aliases and these kind of identities, or is that kind of completely something different?
So I don't know exactly what a soul-bound ID is. I've done a little bit of Google searching, but I think it's related to a few concepts. Decentralized ID, DID, sometimes they call them. I've also seen something called a self-sovereign ID, which I think is a similar concept. The idea being that, well, if we step back and kind of like take a brief overview of Web3, or what they're calling Web3, typically you have a single Ethereum address that sort of identifies you on the network. Hold on just one second. And that's kind of how you build up your reputation over time, is with this. I think that the soulbound ID is something similar. It's a single ID that you attach to yourself, and it's just maybe just a touch more abstract so that it's not associated with a single wallet. And that's great. I mean that we need that. Reputation is a difficult thing to work with in blockchain. We spend a lot of time on DEX coding around the needs of establishing reputation for our DEX users. And going forward with DEX in the mesh, that's going to be one of the biggest challenges we have. Reputation in general, I think, is a challenge on blockchain. So we do need to have systems set up like you say, the soulbound ID or decentralized ID, that allow us to carry that reputation through and through. But I'm not familiar with that particular idea, but I know that my focus in general with TinyWallet and Lightning Network is sort of the opposite. Instead of having, I think that it's good that someone's looking at that stuff, but I want to look at the opposite. I want to know, how can I seamlessly switch between aliases and IDs and retain my privacy as much as possible, which is something Ethereum doesn't do well. So as we start to move Decred into more web applications and stuff, I think what we need to do with Decred is to stay focused on the things that we do really well, and privacy is one of those. So soulbound ID sounds like a great concept. If that ever catches on, it's something that we could implement or sort of bring in to Decred, or to TinyWallet, but I'm personally focused on sort of the opposite end of that spectrum and saying, what if I don't want someone to know who I am? What if I want to do the opposite thing? What if I want to be one person over here and one person over here? Do I need to create a new wallet for that? So I'm trying to kind of get around that sort of conundrum and find a solution to that. So
Yeah,
it's
no,
sort of two ends of the spectrum. They're both needed. You have to have privacy, and you also have to have reputation. There's going to be a balance there somewhere, and we need all of these tools, I think.
Yeah, no, I completely. It was looking at the ID spectrum, and I was just, it kind of clicked in that it sounded something like that, and having like a lifetime reputation certainly, it seems like a good idea. But you're not wrong. Preserving privacy has got to be the utmost of the utmost importance. So the next one was then we're looking at how TinyWallet 2 is a web app, and this improves over widget-based UIDs. Could you explain the advantages and disadvantages of both of these concepts? That'd be great.
Yeah, I can. I'm going to show a diagram here.
Do you want me to bring it up?
Put me on. Tell me when I'm up.
Yeah, you are up.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay, so I just kind of walk through to help explain this. I want to sort of just walk through the architecture of TinyWallet 2. It's a prototype. I'm working on it. Things are still in progress, but I kind of want to walk through how I ended up with the architecture that I'm at, and hopefully it'll help to shed some light on this. So TinyWallet, the original TinyWallet, was a Python Decred wallet, and I did that by rewriting some of the underlying Go code in Python so that I could have a pure Python Decred wallet, which I think is great. It's important. I'm glad we have that tech. I've actually used it a number of times. I've helped people recover funds with it even. So that having that code base there is good. The problem is that every time Decred or DCR wallet in particular adds a new feature, or they change a feature, or they change an input, or they, then I have to adapt the Python code, every last bit of the Python code, in order to align with the new feature, the new change. So I was looking for a way to get around that constant chasing of the DCR wallet code base. So I said, okay, well, can I use DCR wallet directly? DCR wallet has all the features I need. It has staking, it has privacy, it has good development, it's actively maintained. I said, can I use that directly? And well, it turns out that with Python, you can import code and use code and libraries from other languages if they present a C-style exported interface. Now, DCR Wallet doesn't have that. They have gRPC, they have JSON RPC, and it's native Go. It's natively Go, so I can use I can use DCR Wallet directly if I'm working with Go. So there's no clear way for me to get my Python to work with DCR Wallet directly. So what I've done, let me just see if I can. What I've done is I've taken DCR Wallet and I've sort of, does that work? One sec here. Okay. I've taken DCR Wallet and I've sort of added this wrapper library around it. And the wrapper library just has like some wallet management utilities that help me create wallets and open, close, and start. But it also adds an additional API. So instead of just having the Go or the gRPC, JSON RPC, and Go API, I've kind of wrapped it and then exposed all of the entire DCR Wallet API through a C API. So then I could, in theory, I don't know what I'm doing here. Take this, stuff it in here, connect it with a PyQt interface, just like I did with TinyWallet 1, and I'm back to where I started. I have a TinyWallet, but now I can start programming with the new features. And that's great, but then the next question was, okay, well, what happens? I want to get Bitcoin in here too. This is going to be a multi-wallet, multi-asset wallet. It's like, okay, well, that seems simple enough. I could just, there, now Bitcoin's in there too. Okay, well, I want to get DEX in there too. Let's get DEX in there. Okay. Now I got DEX in there too. But here's the problem with this. DEX has to communicate with my Bitcoin wallet. It has to communicate with my Decred wallet. And DEX only has, it has a Go interface. It knows how to communicate with these wallets through JSON RPC. But for a highly integrated app, I have no way of, if I'm working with separate Decred libraries, Bitcoin libraries, DCRDEX libraries, if I'm working with all these separate libraries in Go, I have no way of say, using my DCR wallet that I've implemented and giving that wallet to DEX. So now DEX has to run a separate wallet with its own blockchain and its own sync. And that's not ideal. Now I have to sync the Decred blockchain twice. I have to sync the Bitcoin blockchain twice. I have to create new wallets. I have extra addresses. I have to move funds around between wallets in order to do things like trading. So this only gets us so far, this sort of this implementation, this plan with the Python and the separate libraries built out. It gets us really far in terms of like the API that becomes available to us, because we have the full BTC wallet API, we have the full DCR wallet API, we have the full DCR DEX API, but I don't have a way to sort of combine those into one sort of highly integrated app. So I was looking at ways to get around that. And I said, okay, well, what if we do this just a little bit differently? And instead, I do all of the things. I make TinyWallet, instead of making TinyWallet a Python app, I can make TinyWallet a Go app. I can tie everything together in the TinyWallet Go code. And then I can present the C API from there, which allows me to bring that into the same situation that I had before. I can bring it in, I can pair it with PyQt. I can create a multi-wallet now. Everything is tied together. My Decred DEX and my two wallets can be used to trade with each other without having to create separate wallets and use separate addresses and such. And that's great. I could even take that a step farther and say, well, why do I need Python at all? I have C, Qt is written in C. I can make a desktop app with just C. I don't need Python. And it turns out, well, I can take that. I can even go farther. Now I have a Go interface too. I have a Go API on TinyWallet. I could do a pure Go desktop app, or I can use the C interface, the C API, and I can get into mobile. The point is that once you've exposed this C API, it opens up all kinds of sort of really neat opportunities to interact with other languages that normally we wouldn't be able to interact with, because everything we write in Decred is usually written in Go. So wrapping everything up in one package and exposing it via a C API opens up a lot of opportunities for us. So, and that gets us pretty far. But one thing that you'll notice here, and this is where we get into the discussion of the widgets and such. One thing you'll notice here is PyQt has a widgeting system. The Go Fine or whatever, Geo or whatever you're going to use for Go has a widgeting system. The different mobile platforms each have their own widgeting system. So it's great that I have one TinyWallet that I can use for all of those, but every time I go to a new platform, I have to rewrite the interface because they all use a different widgeting system. So I'm looking for a solution to that now. And I decided that the most universal and the easiest to work with for me of layout managers is just HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So instead of having the widgeting system be separate from TinyWallet, I'm going to define the interface as part of TinyWallet. And then the task of moving to a new platform isn't the task of finding a new widgeting system. It's just finding a way to display web content. And every platform is going to have some way to display web content. I can do the same thing with Qt. PyQt has a Qt web engine, which gives me basically a browser window. So I could still do the same thing that I was doing before and make a PyQt desktop app. But I can also do things like use Electron to create a desktop app. That's pretty flexible. A lot of people use Electron. It's actually Electron is what Decred uses. So we could do that. Or I could even try something like an Apache Cordova, which allows me to just write it once and then it builds it for the mobile and the desktop. So by including some of the interface components, I don't know what I just did, by including some of the interface components in the wallet itself and some of these, and including some useful libraries and stuff in the wallet itself, it makes it much more flexible and easy to move around between platforms. So that's kind of where I'm at right now, and taking this and just kind of looking towards the future just a little bit while I'm here with this architecture. I wanted to show one more thing, because we have some expertise now with DCR wallet, BTC wallet, working in these things in DEX. I can also bring in some other things that we've learned from DEX. Like I could bring in Litecoin wallets and Bitcoin Cash wallets and Go Ethereum wallets. We know how to do all this from DEX. So beyond just Bitcoin and Decred, because of what we've learned at DEX and because of the architecture of the system, adding these things is going to be a breeze. So the TinyWallet, instead of thinking of it as sort of the application that you start on your desktop, it means to kind of sort of shift the context here a little bit. TinyWallet is more like the underlying sort of core software that you view through various windowing systems on your desktop. TinyWallet itself is immutable. I mean, it's not immutable. It's sort of just standardized. When you go to a new platform, the challenge is no longer how do I show people this? It's just how do I get the content from TinyWallet to their screen? And that's easy. It's a tiny little web server. I can write a web server in Python. I can write a web server on mobile. I can write a web server on anything. That small component is the only thing that's going to change from platform to platform. So TinyWallet's here. It's ready to go. Putting it on a new platform becomes easy, and that's kind of where I'm at right now. Looking forward to starting to bring some of this stuff together. Another nice thing is now that I have TinyWallet set up with this Go and the C API all as a single package, it's not only useful as a wallet. So I'm building server-side applications with TinyWallet now too. The chat server, something I'm looking at for providing blockchain services. Those are based on TinyWallet because all I have to do is give TinyWallet a directory, and that gives me a Decred wallet, Lightning Network, a Bitcoin wallet, DCRDEX. It gives me all of those things just like that. So building applications, not only wallet applications, but server applications or centralized applications, whatever you want to do with it. The TinyWallet is now sort of a one-stop shop for everything you need to build those applications.
I mean, thank you for showing the displays there. Do you want me to move away from that screen?
Yeah.
Thank you for showing that display, because actually that made a lot more sense. And I love the fact that obviously this is all running, but someone like myself maybe wants to kind of channel into one of the servers or one of the devices with, and actually connect with some HTML and CSS and obviously connect to the databases. Actually is going to be a lot more easier.
Yeah, it should be.
And I can certainly see that would mean that we can actually inject certain elements of the blockchain into web pages, which is basically what a lot of these widgets are trying to do. Which brings me on to things like that MetaMask and things like that, and which I'm assuming when you talk about widgets is the kind of not. Did you call it a widget?
Yeah,
Sorry.
no, I'm widgeting. When I use widgeting in this context, it's
browser
more
extension.
of a
Sorry,
GUI. It's a term that has to do with writing GUIs, typically low-level GUIs that are based on the system windowing. Yeah.
Sorry, I meant the browser extension. It was part of my next question, which I was assuming that was a MetaMask type thing, but right. for obviously for Decred. Am I right in thinking that?
Yeah. So the browser extension, since I have a web app, all I need is a piece of screen space that knows how to display HTML and JavaScript, CSS and JavaScript. So I can do that with a browser extension. Browser will offer you a small pop-up window to use if you want in your browser extension. Or I could even have a website embed as an iframe the wallet in the website, which surprisingly MetaMask does that. A lot of times you don't realize it when you're using it, but sometimes when you're using MetaMask, what you're actually looking at is not that little extension pop-up. You're actually looking at the MetaMask wallet is embedded in the website. And I can do that now with TinyDecred. One of the big differences is that MetaMask because it's Ethereum and because of the Ethereum model, you kind of expect that almost all data storage happens on chain and all activities sort of take place on chain. Whereas with Decred, a lot of stuff takes place off chain. And there's also sometimes where, like if I'm doing mixing, there's times where I have to keep my wallet running. So the idea of adding a Decred wallet, a pure wallet extension Decred wallet is interesting, but it doesn't get you very far, because when it comes time to use Decred features, a lot of them won't be available because you need a constantly running wallet to take care of some of these background tasks. So with TinyDecred, writing like a pure extension wallet just wasn't in the cards. Instead, TinyDecred runs on your computer and the extension connects your browser to the wallet. So it's just a slightly different architecture than MetaMask.
Yeah, but that sounds I don't even know where to start with that. That's brilliant. Before we go on to any more questions, and we'll kind of, I've got one more on the Lightning chat. Before doing that, community, I can see we've got quite a few people watching. If you've got any questions, now's a great time. We're gonna move over to X. This is part of the show where we kind of open community questions. If you've got any, obviously post them in the chat, and we'll get them displayed. So the final question about what you've been up to with the Lightning chat is, we're talking about bootstrapping the Lightning, by having channels open for chat, that it might be able to bootstrap Decred's Lightning channel. How feasible is this, and how much more? How much can this push the Lightning network forward on Decred?
Your guess is as good as mine, but I think that that chat channels offer a nice way to get people to bootstrap the network for a couple of reasons. First of all, they're extremely cheap. They're a fraction of a penny to open a chat channel. So there's very low risk. Even if you open a chat channel and the other party, you close it immediately, even if that costs you half a cent, and the risk is low. So opening a chat channel is very low risk, which is nice. So I think that what I'd like to say is, like, if I can get someone to create a wallet, a Lightning connected wallet, and open a channel and interact with the Lightning network one time, I think I'm 90% of the way there. Like, that's 90% of what I do, right? If I can get someone onto the Lightning network, isn't that 90% of what we need to do? Because once you get them over that first hurdle, that hurdle of creating the wallet, that hurdle of opening a channel, that hurdle of sending their first payment or message or whatever, now there's no fear there. All the fear is gone. It's like, okay, well, that was easy. Now I can open a larger channel, or I can start interacting with the Lightning network in this way or that way. Getting them over that initial hurdle, I think is probably going to be the biggest challenge for finding people to participate on the Lightning network. So I think that chat channels might offer a nice, cheap way to get people involved. Just get people on the network and start participating. Now, another thing is that, like, the chat channels themselves, there's nothing that says it has to be a fraction of a penny. If you want to open a larger chat channel with some outbound liquidity, you can. And then when I send you a message, I could also send you some Decred with it, or I could go start making purchases on some of these TinyWallet backed online services that are going to be popping up here pretty soon. So I think it just offers a nice, low risk, flexible way to get people onto the network. And once we have people on the network, I think that's a good starting point. I think that's a good place to be for early Decred Lightning.
I must admit, myself and Exodus have been, when the first proposal went through, for the video proposal went through, we said, well, we'll do a tutorial on Lightning. And I've kind of put it off, just purely because it does, there's getting onto it just a little bit seems a little bit scary. I'm sure it's not. Right. And I think the idea of having a wallet that has less than a Decred in it, and I'm just talking to Exodus, I'm talking to somebody else, I think you're right. I think that's what's going to trigger the use cases for the Lightning network. And I think in the coming weeks, once I've worked this TinyWallet out and installed it and all the rest of it, I think we're going to do that. We're going to create a tutorial for kind of communication. We'll open that up and just really promote that, because in actual fact, that's literally all that needs to happen, and it makes complete sense when I hear it from you like that. So yeah, brilliant stuff. I'm tempted to leave my last question for a second. It's just to find out how the DCRDEX is going up. I've kind of taken my 30 minutes, so let's head on over to Exodus and let's get some community questions.
Sure. Yeah. One question before we go to community questions. Do you have any sort of approximate release date for this new wallet or any of the features? Or is it just kind of up in the air and you're working on it on the side?
Yeah, this is a side project. Although that said, this year I've been dedicating more and more time to it. But right now, I really want to get a 1.0 DEX release out. I'm pushing hard. We need to get the native wallets built in. We've got to get, I'll talk a little bit more about DEX later, but there's a couple tools we need to add. And it's hard for me to dedicate time to a project that depends on DEX when I know DEX isn't quite where it needs to be yet. So right now I'm focused on DEX. Slowly, though, I've been dedicating more and more time to this project. If you see something usable in a prototype form, even just a testnet usable by the end of the year, maybe that would be good.
Cool.
If you're a developer and you want to help, I can give you something right now. But if you want to see a polished product or anything that I would be comfortable passing out and telling people to use, then it'll be a little bit.
So can we expect a proposal at some point, do you think, to kind of open it up to more developers? Or
yeah, well, I mean, it's open up to as many developers who want to right now. If you're talking about people getting paid, that's a different story. Yeah, I have to do a proposal for that. I've had some budgets approved by stakeholders in the past, but all that cash is gone. So this is really just a passion project for me. I do it in my spare time, and right now, if anyone wanted to be involved, that's what it would have to be for them too. But if someone wants to come along and help me write a proposal and start getting some cash on the table and move things along, I would welcome that contribution to the project. As long as we all know that I'm on DEX for at least a couple more months, pretty hardcore, then bring it on. But yeah, yep.
Okay, great. I don't know if Phoenix, you wanted to move on to questions, or did you want to talk about general Decred DEX development? I know that the DEX has had so much development going on. I actively checked the GitHub repos, and it's really incredible. Just I know mixed DCR is going to be available for trading. You guys have USDC. You're getting it on testnet to work. The Ethereum contract, Solidity contract was audited with great scores. So it's really shaping up nicely. Did you want to just speak about the general development?
Yep, sure.
Yeah, do it.
We're about to push an 0.5 release, which feature-wise, it doesn't bring a whole lot of new stuff to the table. A lot of bug fixes, and a lot of stuff that isn't in your face. This is new feature. A lot of bug fixes. Over 140 closed issues and merged pull requests went into this release. So, and that's high for a release for us. So if you're still on 0.4, which I believe Decrediton is, keep an eye out for 0.5 because it does open up quite a few new things, and it should make the overall experience quite a bit better. Just a quick list of some of the things that 0.5 is going to bring to the table. We have Zcash and Dogecoin wallets, both only RPC wallets right now, so you will have to run full nodes on those two. But Decred now is a native wallet, SPV native wallet. So both Decred and Bitcoin, we now have native built-in wallets, no external software required. Litecoin also got an Electrum wallet, so you don't have to sync the full blockchain there. You can do an external light wallet with Litecoin now. And then 0.5, we're also have some neat, just a couple small features. We have USD conversions. So for instance, when I look at the balance, my Decred balance in my wallet, it'll have a small display there that says approximately this many US dollars. We have QR codes for addresses. We have more options around the way that around wallet options around order time that can help you control fees or speed things up, or provide a little bit of convenience if you plan to do a lot of trading. And let's see, what else do I have? We don't have no Ethereum on 0.5 yet. If we're on testnet, we're testing on testnet with Ethereum. If you please come by and fire up DCRDEX and test some Ethereum on testnet with us, but it's not going to make it to 0.5. I think we're looking forward to an 0.6, and 0.6 may end up being called 1.0, but we're looking forward to the next release, at least for Ethereum and tokens. So looking then, as we look forward, then we have Ethereum. I want to get USDC on 0.6, and then we have Bitcoin Cash and Litecoin native SPV light wallets in 0.6. So that'll be 4 native wallets that don't require external software, or no, excuse me, 5 native wallets that don't require external software, and that includes ERC20 tokens with the Ethereum wallet too. So infinite assets without any additional software. So that's where we're moving with the DEX. Now, one other thing I wanted to touch on, because this comes up a lot. People are like, okay, there's only one market. There's only Decred Bitcoin. You guys have Litecoin. You have Bitcoin Cash. How come there's still only one market? And the simple answer is because I can't just open a market. I can't just fire up a server, open a market, and say, hey, everyone, I have a market open. You have, because no one's going to use it. There's no orders on the market. You have to have someone to provide liquidity for the market. It's just the way it is in crypto, especially for low volume assets and new markets. So I know that the guys at DCR or dex.decred.org, they have their own way of providing liquidity for their market. They're writing their own tools for that. But before I start recommending that operators run new markets with some of these new assets that we have, I want to build the tools into the client so that anyone can be a market maker. Anyone can provide arbitrage services. So one thing that we're in, one of the first PR pull requests is already open. The built-in market maker on the client is already open. And how that'll work is just like I would make a trade with my DEX client. There would be a different dialogue there that says, make this market, provide this much liquidity for the market, dedicate so much liquidity for the market. And it's an automated trading routine. I hate to use the word bot because that sort of has a negative connotation, but it's a bot, and it'll keep that market liquidity going for you. It tracks the price. It has a way of, has some nice features that help you help to make sure that you don't lose anything. Market making isn't always the most profitable, but hopefully you don't lose anything. That's the goal here. So once these tools are up, I think then it'll be time to really start pushing people to open some of these new markets. I'll be happy to provide liquidity for markets. I don't have a lot of, I'm not wealthy or anything, but I have enough that I can provide a couple lots of liquidity on the side of each market. That would be reasonable. These tools are coming along. Part of them are already sort of under review, and some of them are soon to be up for review. Yeah. So I just kind of wanted to address that because I know that a lot of people are, just unhappy with what they view as a lack of sort of progress. We only have one market. It's been almost 2 years since DEX launch. There's only one market out there available. And it's because I don't want to put out a product and tell people to create these markets if they're going to be of such low quality that no one can use them. So anyways, I thought I'd get that out.
We've reached out to the Litecoin community time and time again, and they just don't really care. They're not interested. Hopefully Zcash or Bitcoin Cash might take a liking and maybe their community can do something about it. But obviously we're Decred, so
it's hard because you can say, well, hey, come and provide liquidity. They're like, okay, how do I do that? Well, you have to write this, you have to install this client, and then you have to write some code in order to manage your liquidity and manage your market making. It's hard to say that to someone, hey, come provide liquidity. You got to write all the code while you're at it, but come provide some liquidity for our market. So instead, we're gonna build the tools into the client so that anyone can provide liquidity. We don't have to outsource it from anyone.
It's amazing. I'd heard some chatter on, I think it was Twitter, about Hummingbot and things like that. I thought I don't see that one working, but it's nice that you just explain what was going on with that. So that's great. And I also not having a lot of money, but I would definitely be up for providing a bit of liquidity once it's possible.
Do you guys have any plans in the next release to lower the lot size, the needed Decred to trade, or because I know that's a big question.
I expect the lot size to come down. I actually already expected the lot size to come down. We've been talking about it for months. And again, I'm not in charge of the market, but I hear things through the grapevine. And the word is that the lot size is supposed to be coming down, but it hasn't happened yet. I expect it to come down to somewhere between $10 and $20. So it should be at least by half and possibly by 75% decrease in the lot size. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, especially lately with the Decred price swinging so wildly. It's like, how do you pick the right lot size for the market, you know? But yeah. Someone in chat asks, can we implement our own trading strategies with the market maker bot? I guess that's the point, right?
So sort of. The initial release will have 3 or 4 knobs that you can adjust, or maybe I think it's 3 knobs that you can adjust. So implementing your own strategy is more just like adjusting the parameters. Going forward, though, I do want to look into having sort of plug and play strategies. Like I want to use, sort of just a checkbox. I want to use this strategy or this strategy or this strategy. I want to use this approach, and then still some, some optional knobs and such. But yeah, I like the idea of that. I like the idea of saying, I want to do it slightly different. I think that this will work slightly better, and letting people sort of, play with those settings and finding a balance there. So sort of, yeah, you will have some knobs to play with. It won't be exactly like implementing completely new strategies. Your strategy is just a combination of sort of parameters that you supply to the market maker. But yeah, there's some flexibility there.
Yeah. Let's see.
If you guys in the community want to ask some questions, now is your time. We seem a bit light on questions. This is unusual for you guys. You're normally overly vocal. But yeah, go for it if you've got questions. But Exodus, over to you. We got a couple on Decred Magazine.
Yeah, we have a few here. Is Company Zero blocking competing servers? I think that's a little ridiculous.
No, that's nonsense. The DCRDEX is open source. Anyone can open a market. Go for it.
Yeah.
DEX.decred.org, that server is providing an amazing service for us, and we should be thanking them because they're writing tools in order to provide that market. They have to create software in order to provide that market for us. So yeah, I don't have a bad thing to say about those guys. They're doing great.
Okay. All right, we'll move on to questions. Let's see, Mr. Turniphead asks, I'd like to know how Decred fits in with Web3. Will the DCRDEX somehow tie in with that? I have a hard time imagining how the two would work together unless Decred is doing some kind of sidechain thing for people to store data on. So yeah, how does Decred fit in with Web3 and with the DEX?
So let me just start by I need to admit something to you guys. Web3 is nonsense. It's a marketing term, and it really is. What is the definition of Web3? I think that if you ask 10 people that, you'll get 10 different answers, but there will be some common themes among that. I think the idea of Web3 is that we want to sort of, we all have online lives, and those online lives are separate from our blockchain lives in large part. MetaMask is an app that allows us to sort of bridge that. And I think that Ethereum and MetaMask and Math Wallet or whatever, all those various wallets do a pretty good job of bridging that gap, but they only do it for account-based assets, for EVM assets. I think that the core of what people are looking for in Web3 is more about integration of our blockchain lives with our everyday lives, which is largely lived online these days. And we can provide that. It's about having an identity. It's about controlling your own data. It's about blockchain integration. And we can do all of that with Decred, without having an Ethereum blockchain, smart contracts and such. Now, if you're looking for DeFi or if you're looking for NFTs, that's something that Decred's not going to excel at. We're not going to do that very well. But TinyWallet, as I showed earlier, also supports Ethereum. So it's all good. Eventually, if you still want the DeFi and the NFTs, once this is all integrated and working, then you can still have that stuff. But it's not going to be on the Decred blockchain.
Okay, great. Okay, next question is a fun one. What's the status on the DCRDEX name change?
Yeah. I want to change the name. I've made a couple of suggestions. We've gotten a lot of feedback. I am yet to be convinced or inspired of anything. I think Decred does in general, people, and I've heard this comment made many times, people don't think we're very good with naming things. So I want to go a little bit slower with this and just make sure that we're taking the time and putting in the effort to make sure that we're finding something that's going to work. So there, I put one mistake I made is I sort of did this publicly. I said, hey, I'm thinking about a name change. I did this on Twitter. I did this on Reddit. I'm thinking about a name change. Here's a couple of ideas I'm playing with. What do you guys think? If you have suggestions, please offer them. And that was a shit show. It was everyone and their mother has an idea. Most of them are terrible, and people are very, very, very strongly opinionated about this. I see a lot of stuff that's like OpenSwap and FreeSwap and CipherSwap and TrueDex, and with a lot of that's probably the majority of the name suggestions I've gotten, and I have to sort of reject that those types of names as I don't know exactly how to explain. A couple things happening here. First, from a marketing standpoint, it's not great. So if I think of, for instance, I'm going to change the subject a little bit. If I think of word processing software, and someone tells me to use OpenOffice, I'm like, okay, OpenOffice is okay. It gets the job done. But if I have Word in front of me, it's like, okay, I'll use that because it's a really well-developed, highly developed product, and it's professionally done. I know it's going to work, and I know how to use it, and there's lots of tutorials out there. And so I think that in general, people, when they hear the word like open or free or something like that in the name, they tend to associate it with like second-tier software that's provided free of charge because it's not as good as other stuff. It's also a little bit of virtue signaling, which I'm not crazy about. Like, yeah, I know you want to inject like a lot of meaning into these names and stuff, but people don't necessarily care about that. What are the top DEXs out there right now? SushiSwap, Uniswap, what are the other ones? DUIDX. You know, these words, they don't try to like inject like the entire ethos of the system into the name. They just want something that's memorable and that people don't have to say, hey, you know, what does that mean? When someone says go to SushiSwap and trade, I don't go, oh, well, what does sushi mean in SushiSwap? I just go, oh, SushiSwap. It's easy to remember. I'm going to go to SushiSwap and trade. Next time I want to go back, I'll remember it as SushiSwap. I'll go there and trade again. And I think at Decred, we do a somewhat poor job of that. Almost all of the names that we give our products require some kind of like primer. Like, here's Decrediton. What's Decrediton mean? Well, it's this and this and this. Okay, here is what's the word? TinyWallet, even TinyWallet gets a lot of guff. It's like, what does TinyWallet mean? Well, now I got to go and like explain all this. We haven't always done a great job in making names that people will use. So I'm going a little bit slower on this. I'm keeping things open. I'm waiting for the right name that just hits the ear right to come through. But I can't guarantee there's going to be a name change at all. I like the fact that people are thinking about it. I like that people are interested in it. I like that most people seem to be on board with the name change. But there's just a lot riding on it, and we want to make sure that we do it right. So right now, just kind of on hold. If someone has an idea, please send it my way. But we're just kind of waiting to be inspired, I think.
I liked the fact that you did it so openly, and I know it got kind of flooded, but in actual fact, that was probably one of Decred's highest performing tweets. So it's like, you know, things like that really get everyone quite passionate, and I quite like that. And I do agree that pretty much everything in the Decred world has this primer associated to it. So yeah, it's going to be interesting going forward, and I'm sure you know that will kind of keep everyone interested for ages. And I'm sure there'll be some good ones come along eventually. Wow, what we got?
Okay. Next question. Is there any solution that could work in the DEX for adding a fiat ramp? So fiat on ramp.
Yeah. The short answer is no. So at least as integrated into the DEX, it's a no, because any kind of fiat on ramp is going to require us to seek private information of some kind from our users. And DEX, we're just not going to do that with DEX. Privacy is so critical to us as we build this. One thing that I could see is having just a link, or even like perhaps like an embedded iframe. And I think I saw that some services offer that, to a third-party service that does fiat on-ramps, even via credit card. Let them handle your private information. Let them deal with that. You can use them if you want. But DEX itself isn't going to handle that. We would forward you to their website with an address for them to send the funds back to, and then it would come back to us. So unfortunately, fiat on-ramps as part of the core DEX service is just not going to happen.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
It
Really,
was
I mean,
worth
people
that.
should just get paid in decred, and then they can convert it to USDC or whatever they want on the DEX.
Exactly, as stable coins. I mean, you could still, buy USDC on Coinbase, send it to DEX, so yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, next question is, do you think Decred DEX needs additional funding to promote its value proposition and awareness?
I mean, if we're talking about marketing expenses, the answer is yes, eventually. But I want to have something to market first, and it's hard to do that when there's one market out there, and just a lot of promises about what it's going to be. So we're getting really close to a place that we can talk about that. We don't have anything specifically earmarked for marketing in our current budget, but we have a little bit of discretionary spending. So if something came up, an opportunity came up, or if it became clear that it was time, we would be able to put something out. But right now, I don't think that any of us at DEX are focused on trying to get the word out there. We're all just laser focused on really getting these new assets involved, these new features, getting a nice solid 1.0 release, and then we can start talking about, really spreading the word. Eventually, I do see marketing in our future at some point.
Okay, cool. And as a follow-up question, is there enough funding to swiftly code up additional pairs on our own dime? Is there and enough interest to add innovative products besides spots?
So I think when they say innovative products, you're probably looking for DeFi stuff. Is that right?
Yeah, I guess I'm not sure actually.
Yeah. No, we're not looking towards adding derivatives or anything like that. Our next big tasks are going to be the mesh network and and the Lightning Network integration. As far as like coding up new assets, we're at a place now where coding a new Bitcoin-like asset is a couple of days work and then a review process. It's literally a couple of days worth of work, though, if even. I bet I could code, if you gave me the right Bitcoin asset that hasn't strayed too far from the Bitcoin protocol, I could probably code it up in a few hours now. So are we able to do it on our dime? Yeah, we definitely are for many assets. Ethereum is going to be similar. We're not there yet with Ethereum, but adding new EVM assets is also going to be, pretty straightforward. Once you get outside of that, though, if you're looking to do like a Cardano or something weird, like, I don't even know how we would go about doing that. If you're looking for something that's outside of the Bitcoin and Ethereum land, then things get more difficult. And no, we don't have the resources right now to add new non-UTXO, non-Ethereum assets to DEX. And we have no intention of doing it. No one's come to us and asked us to add Solana or anything weird like that. So, So right now, I mean, yeah, we can add new assets fairly quickly if they're the right assets. If you want something exotic, it's not going to be simple. It would probably require a new proposal with dedicated funding for adding new types of assets.
One that I've seen a lot of people ask for is Monero, and I think I put it in a chat a few months ago, and that seemed like it would be quite difficult. Yeah,
they've made some progress on Monero atomic swaps, but unfortunately, they don't fit with our atomic swap system. It's a completely hybrid protocol, a completely new protocol for doing atomic swaps on Monero. And there's also some concerns about the protocol itself, but I think those concerns is something we could get around. there's a lot of interest in it. A lot of people, every time we talk about DEX, someone comes along and says, can you do Monero? Can you do Monero? I just don't see it happening anytime soon. The best I can offer you is Zcash.
Yeah, Zcash. Yeah, it's a great alternative. But
I think
that is quite a common one.
We had a Zcash question in the chat. I don't know, Phoenix, if you'd like to highlight that question by Theo.
Oh, where is it?
It's
I think I've got it. Yep, got it.
Will anyone's Zcash wallet address be visible when swapping on the DCRDEX?
Your T addresses will be visible. Well, T addresses are always visible on chain, and DEX is always on chain. So your T addresses will be visible. We don't work with the shielded pool yet for our Zcash wallets. And even if we did, obviously the shielded pool, it wouldn't, okay, even if we did start integrating features of working with the shielded pool, it wouldn't be for trading. It would only be for sending and receiving. So, no, Zcash, I mean, if you want to be private with your Zcash, you'd be as private as you want. Trading does involve the exposure of T addresses, though, yeah.
Okay. And on that note, someone also asked, David Butcher asks, would it also be possible to organize private chat rooms via Lightning Network, or do we need a MRTTRE implementation first?
I don't know that MRT tree, is that how you say it? No,
I have no idea.
I have read a little bit about the power of these data structures. I don't know that technology very well. As far as having like larger chat rooms that exist outside of the browser and purely on the Lightning Network, yeah, I mean that's a technological hurdle, but that would be possible, sure.
Okay. And next question, same with Lightning Network. Would Lightning Network implementation on the DEX lead to quicker trade times? And I guess a better question is, are we going to see Lightning on the DEX at some point, do you think?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yep. We're looking at it. I've been looking at it a lot, thinking about how exactly we're going to do it. There's certainly some challenges to making it work right. But yeah, we're going to see Lightning on DEX. And the trade times, it will reduce trade times. If you're trading on an L2 market, say you're trading your Lightning Decred for Lightning Bitcoin, those trades would happen virtually instantly. If you're trading on an L2 market, which is I think where DEX will really show its power, is when we have L1, L2 markets. Imagine trading instead of having to loop in or loop out of your Bitcoin Lightning and having to create on-chain transactions. Imagine if you could rebalance your Bitcoin Lightning Network channel by paying Decred. That's essentially what an L1, L2 market would be. You're using a low fee asset to reload, Lightning Network channels on high fee blockchains. And those, an L1, L2 market would go faster, but it wouldn't be instant. It would be about half as fast, or half as or twice as fast, excuse me, as a L2, L2 or L1, L1, excuse me.
Okay, great. Okay, DCR Uncle asks, is Tor essential to network sovereignty? What are other services that are similarly meshed to our future mesh DEX? And what incentives are needed to keep the DEX maximally decentralized? So there's a few different questions there.
Right. I mean, yeah, the decentralization and privacy are, of course, we focus on that at all times with the DEX. Looking forward, that's what we're looking forward to with the mesh network, is decentralizing the server itself. So as far as Tor goes, we do support Tor. John Chapello has really focused on keeping the Tor on the server and the client in a functional and ready to use state. And he's even we've even experimented a little bit playing with a mainnet Tor server, so we know it works. We've done trades on mainnet with Tor. And yeah, privacy is critical for us. Someday, somewhere, some unelected bureaucrat is going to decide to censor DEX. It's going to happen. And we need to make sure that we're ready for that. So Tor is a critical part of our infrastructure. It's going to be ready to go at a drop of a dime all the time. It's always going to be there. Yep.
That's great.
Excellent. Yeah. It's nice to know you guys are ready.
Yes, that
Okay.
just blows my mind, actually.
I guess the other part of that question is what incentives are needed to keep the DEX maximally decentralized? I mean, I guess that's the whole point of the DEX. It's decentralized exchange.
I'm having a little trouble with that one. What incentives are needed? I think that the incentive alignment of DEX is pretty good. I think that we have created a system where privacy is valued. And I don't think that there's anything that's going to come along that's going to change our minds about the importance of privacy. So yeah, looking forward, I expect that you'll people who are very interested in privacy will have what they need from DEX. Yeah.
All right, excellent. I think, do you see any more questions there, Phoenix, in the chat? I don't think I see any actual questions.
Smart.
I think that's just a comment, just
Okay,
not a question. But yeah, this has been great. I just over an hour.
Amazing. Yeah,
Great.
I think we're
DCRDEX.
Before we go to sign off, Buck, is there anything that you want to add? Is there any? I think we talked earlier about getting people involved in your work. Is there anywhere they can come to, or is there anything you want to add to the end of this?
Yeah, I'm just browsing my notes here a little bit and seeing. No, I think we've covered everything I wanted to cover.
Yeah, that was pretty intensive. It's brilliant. Yeah, no, and I think, if you guys want to see this stuff happen, obviously get in touch with Buck, and he's on Matrix and he's fully accessible there. So to bring some developers in, put the proposals together, especially if you are capable of doing this stuff. And now he's outlined the proposal for TinyWallet and he's shown us how the wrappers work. I dare say there should be a few people out there that are going, okay, I can kind of work with this, and I'd like to find out more. And obviously we know where to go, and this is important now. So if you want to see this stuff happen, you've got to get involved. Signing off, Exodus, is there anything you want to add?
No, this has been a great chat. Love hearing about the DEX. Like I said earlier, love just going on GitHub. That's really the best way. I'm going to link the GitHub right here in the chat so people can check it out. But it's just amazing to always go through and see all the stuff you guys are building and adding, and it's really shaping up. And
we've got new guys coming on board too, and DEX is ramping up. We've got a lot going on. So yeah.
And the lighting chat sounds excellent to have that in DECred. So yeah, just thanks a lot to Buck for coming on here.
Sure, thanks guys.
Yeah, thanks, Buck. Thanks, community, for getting in touch. Don't forget to give this program a like, subscribe, and most importantly, put a comment underneath. Tell us, everyone, how much you like it. It all helps with the algorithm. And let's try and get this channel up to 10,000 subscribers. Thanks, everybody, and we'll see you next time. Cheers. Take care all.